Excellent.
Okay.
All right. So just want to give a welcome to the External Relations Committee. This is our first committee meeting of 2025. So excited to be sharing space with you all to look at the amazing work that has already taken place these first 2 months of the year as a result of us really diligently getting together during 2024 to move some very important items along and all of those things. So during that time, I know that we've had the team grow. You'll see that the first agenda item that we have on here is formally welcoming Vivian Timchenko, who is our Public Relations and Logistics Specialist, to the Wisconsin Arts Board team. Yay! So Vivian, I don't know if you want to say a couple words, considering that, you're here and we're here and, there's a lot of cool stuff ahead.
Yes, well, hello. My name is Vivian Timchenko, as Chella introduced me as. I am the newest member on the Wisconsin Arts Board team, and aside from bringing technical difficulties sometimes, I also bring really versatile background that I'm really excited to kind of utilize within my role. And I have met, I would say, about half of the people on this meeting, and I'm happy to meet the other half. So thank you for joining the meeting today and for giving me such a warm welcome. I've received just a slew of emails from so many people, and it is really wonderful to see. So thank you. I'm honored to be here and really happy to put in a lot of work here.
Yes, thank you for just all the support that you've already provided to not only this committee but just in general, like the amount of lifting that as a team we've decided to take on for this upcoming year. So for the agenda, there's three main things, really two things that I wanted to focus our time on. And that was really, the communication that we have been working on that's going to be distributed, has been distributed. Looking at the one pagers, first of all, because I think that's like the biggest project that this committee has taken on. Look at where we're at with that. I know that there's some legislative letters also that we've been kind of like massaging for that. So we'll get into that. And before we get into that, I just wanted to thank everyone who has submitted reviews, comments, so that we can make this, first of all, streamlined messaging and that's clear and concise. So thank you for everyone who has done that already. Secondly, we wanted to just talk about a little bit about strategy. I know that we have a couple of public facing events that are coming up. And really the question of circling back of what does the public facing involvement of either committee members look like, or now that we have someone in staff that's, taking this on more directly, like what can that look like, right? There's obviously a lot of opportunities and we have limited time and resources. So how do we, prioritize those things? And then lastly, just so that we can keep the conversation going, there's really no action on it at this point that I'm aware of. But looking at how we are going to be looking at the way that we are data visualizing all of these things that we've been talking about, into the future. So this is really coming from the NASA conference that we attended in 2024 and looking at some of what our colleagues around the country are doing to really bring information in a more timely fashion and a more understandable fashion. And so we'll get into that. So let's start with the item that looks at one pagers. And I know that there's a couple links in the agenda. So Vivian, I don't know if you want to kind of just take the driver's seat and share like where you've been, what you've been working on, and like all those things. So I'll just kind of transfer that to you.
Yeah. So I can go ahead and open these one pagers up. So I think everyone's been able to see at least the general copy. And the generalized one for the state is a little bit similar to some of the assembly districts, just because we don't have some data for some of the districts. So that's kind of what we used in place of it. And let me just go ahead and share my screen really quickly so you guys can see that as well. All right, so hopefully everyone can see kind of the general one-page report. This is kind of what I was working on last week. Just putting in all of the data for the assembly districts, the 99 assembly districts, and then the 33 Senate districts. So, like I said, there's some overlap in some of the statistics just because we don't have that. But in general, they're pretty much ready to go. Some of the wording was edited due to feedback from Brian and the team. But I think we can probably send those out after everyone gives it one more look over, because we also do have kind of the language for the email that needs to go out. And just I can say on the from feedback that I've been receiving, both in person from arts organizations and then also on the socials, I think people are really eager to see some sort of positivity regarding the statistics in Wisconsin on the arts. So I think this could definitely be something that people need to see now and then need to also share now. And then I'm just going to hand it off to you again, Cello, or if anyone has any thoughts on just looking at this, I don't know.
Yeah, so the plan is that, we've been kind of fine tuning some of the language. Obviously, it looks differently. It's a little bit more like bold and bright, invites people in to dive into the data. But we just wanted to utilize this time to ensure that, we have like the final blessing from the committee members so that we can start, with the strategy of dissemination of this information. So I don't know if anyone has any comments, like, is it looking good to you all? You all should have also received the individual links. So my hope is that you've had some time to kind of just scroll through all of those things. As you will see, the information is pretty much their standard things that are, about the state. And obviously, as we get into more of like the differences in districts or assemblies, you'll see that data is where there's a little bit more of the uniqueness to things. I mean, if there's like I don't know, a part of the state that you're really intrigued in, this is a great learning opportunity for folks to kind of dig into those items. But I don't know if anyone has comments or questions about this at this point. So I'm just going to open that up for the committee to talk about.
No, I think Vivian did a great job just laying this all out and then going through it. I just made some edits to some of the wording that we were using. Other than that, I think it's pretty straightforward. It remains our color brand. As I said, I'm not a huge purple teal person, but those are our style. That's our style guide. But I think they do what they're supposed to do. And I'm very thankful that Vivian is working on these.
Exactly. So the one thing that I will mention is that there has been a shift in the data that we are sharing out. I know at one point the committee talked about having kind of a 5-year retrospect of information. However, due to just the way that district maps have changed and the amount of labor in order to kind of like match apples to bananas or whatever the fruits are, it would just be easier to streamline it to data from 2024. So I just want to make sure that everyone understands that, from moving forward, we'll have information from, the last time we did the one pagers was 2017. Now we'll have 2024 and we'll continue to report on data moving forward on that. Cool. All right, Dinora. Cool.
Yeah, just to clarify. So the information we have now is from 22. Is that correct? I mean, that's what it says on the sheet. So where am I? So like in the economic impact information is from 22, but the full dollars is from 24.
Yes, that's exactly correct. So those statistics on the economic impact, that's from the Arts and Economic Prosperity Edition 6, or I don't know, but the number 6 that came out in 2020,
it is.
There hasn't been one.
AEP 6.
AE 6. So there hasn't been one following that. So that's why it's 2022, but everything else is 2024.
Yeah, that's the most recent data sets that we have available to inform this. They are working on one. One should be coming up at the end of the year.
I'm not aware of. George, are you aware of another one with data? No, there's not another one yet.
Not another AEP 6.
But yeah, AEP 6. AEP 7 will be in a few years. Is it every 5 years, George?
Generally, it's every 5 years, COVID notwithstanding. But yes, every 5 years. And the
So
BEA numbers, the Bureau of Economic Analysis numbers, generally have come out in March. But obviously, with everything that's going on the federal level, I'm not sure if they'll stick to that timing or not.
So I'm
No, that is
just thinking,
yes.
Dinora, you're bringing that up because there's a discrepancy of dates there, I'm guessing. And is it worth kind of pointing out most recent data available from blah, blah, blah? Are you thinking that maybe a question would arise since the data comes from two different years?
Time periods, yeah, we know why. And as soon as you mentioned it, yes, of course, that's true, but that, I don't think everybody might know that.
They
And so
won't.
Some
I don't know
clarification.
how you're going to clarify that on here, though, to be quite honest, is in a one-page document because it does
That's the
say,
most recent data
Most
available.
recent data available from blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Even in your little tiny print underneath,
Yep.
where yeah. But I just wanted to comment also, this is fabulous. I think the work is really wonderful, and I'm really grateful to Vivian, and it's really impactful, just to see this is exactly what's happening in district. Also, how much is going to rural and urban. I think that's real important, especially in our political climate, I think, and state. I think it's just done really well. It's very clear and easy to understand.
Just
if there's,
looking at
oh, go on,
the
George.
numbers, we're going to have to think about how we lay that out because those are two different data sets under the economic impact. And right now it looks like it's all AEP6, but the first one is AEP6 and the second one is the BEA numbers.
Yep.
And so we can't attribute in that way. So we'll have to work on that.
Okay. So is there anything as far as like anything you need from the committee at this point for, I don't know, like doing that, or is that more and more of an internal thing that we can maybe offline have a conversation?
Yeah, that's not a committee thing. We can figure out how to do that together offline.
Okay. Okay, perfect. So then, again, like I think it's a very visually striking piece, information's there. So I just wanted to also take some time for the committee to kind of celebrate the fact that we did it. Like this was a heavy thing that we were like, oh my gosh, like we're gonna take this on. It's been a while. And here we are. We have like things that are like small, tiny edits that need to be done so that it can be out in the universe. I just want to, celebrate that and take some time to give ourselves some kudos for this. Woo! All right. Does everyone have some love that has come out? Perfect. All right. And thank you, Leonora. One thing that I did want to make sure we didn't lose sight of this was just making sure we thank Kathy Lang for her contributions early on in helping us like think about like the connect with how it was done to now. And for us, especially for me, that was really helpful to just talk through some items with her. So I'll make sure that we circle back with her and thank her for, what she did, and that we've moved the work along now that we have the, capacity to do it. Just so that, she feels part of, the success that we've reached. All right. So then the other part for the one pagers is obviously the process for dissemination. So I wanted to look at, Vivian, if you can just pull up the legislative letters.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of, we'll take some time just to go through that as well, because I know there's been a lot of movement around that particular piece as well.
All right, so this is the most updated draft of the legislative letter. As was said, we definitely need to focus on how we're going to get these out, and this is kind of what we have in progress on how to do that. So this was fixed, by the way, that typo at the bottom, apologies. But this is kind of what it's looking like so far. And if everyone can kind of review that and maybe take a minute and see how we can improve it, because I'm sure there's ways to kind of make it more persuasive and seem even more bipartisan than it is. I think that's maybe something that we should focus on.
I didn't feel it felt partisan at all, to be quite honest. As I put as I read it and then went through it and made the edits and whatnot, it was not meant to be partisan. It was meant to be written for a politician to read, but not come off as partisan. I think it's factual.
I would 100% agree with you. I don't think that any of it is partisan, but perhaps we can add one more paragraph really emphasizing the fact that the arts is for everyone, no matter the political party. I just think it might be especially important to do now, but if no one else thinks it's necessary, I would also defer to everyone else's judgment.
I don't think I'm concerned that there's a perception that it is for a political party, because I know that many of my supporters are Republicans, as a matter of fact. So I don't think we need to call this out in here.
Okay.
I don't think we have to partisanize our cover letter to them. It is simply saying the arts are for all. And I think by adding that in there, we open ourselves up to making it seem, whether it's classist or party lines or whatever, I would steer clear from that personally.
Okay.
There
I
was a
understand what you're
very,
saying, Brian. I'm sorry. Just why draw attention to something that doesn't need attention drawn to it? Just let sleeping dogs lie.
there was a
It's
very
good how it
neat
stands.
paragraph in the previous, in an older letter that Chela shared, that I think did that. And it was very neat and short, right? Where it's, as you may know, the Wisconsin Arts Board is the state agency which nurtures creativity, so forth, so forth, so forth, and economic development, and serves as a resource for people of every culture and heritage. You know, it was so tight and clear. That's all. I'm just wondering why we're not using that same language. It seemed a little shorter and really clear.
Right, and Dinora is referencing the January 2023 letter.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I feel like there's some good things here. And I know George and I were joined the NASA board meeting this past week, where a lot of the, I guess, like the same questions, you know, that groups are struggling with, to really look at like the way that, you know, as state agencies, how do you stay, you know, like non-political and bipartisan and, you know, all of those things. In a time where it just feels so politically charged, right? So I think that, you know, for us as a, you know, specifically on a committee that's like facing outwards, you know, the key question is like, to what, I don't know, degree are we like comfortable or need to affirm what, you know, access for all people means? Does that just cover it? Is there maybe follow-up communications that can really drive that point? Do we leave things as is right now? Do we pull the sentence from the 2023 letter just to, I don't know, further underscore that? So I don't know. What do you all think?
The sentence I think Denora is referencing is actually the mission statement of the Arts Board.
Right.
And
it could be right there.
Right. And I think the mission statement takes care of the issues around inclusion.
Yep.
In the sense that we're about every culture and heritage. We don't limit ourselves to anybody. We are for everybody, and I think it says it pretty quickly and accurately. So,
and it's easy to insert it into that second paragraph after in supporting arts education across the state. As you know, the Arts Board
Our
is
mission.
blah, blah. Yeah.
Right. No, and I think that's helpful to refocus people into just like the overall mission of like why we exist and the work that we set out to do.
Reintroduce ourselves. Yep. Thanks for catching that, Denora.
And I think that that particular paragraph is really strong in pointing out things that we don't, that I know that Brian really strongly underscores generally is how important we are as an economic engine, right? So I think that paragraph is real important, but it'd be great to have the other element to just like, this is our mission. I think that's important. So thank you for
I
that.
just, yeah, I mean, my point in some of this stuff was if this is going to Representative Kitchens, if this is going out to legislators, many of whom know who we are, that putting our mission statement in a letter was not, is to me, I was like, this is being redundant for the little time we have and the little attention they may give this. So how do I write this in a fashion to where it's most appealing to a politician who is concerned with numbers right now, where we're concerned with people more. So it's how do we parlay what it is we're trying to get across to them in terms that they can read and understand without having them switch off by perceived undertones that we're not making. So to me, if they want to know more about the Wisconsin Arts Board, we encourage them, and our mission statement is pretty much there. So I mean, I don't think we're hiding anything. I just think we've got limited real estate, and how we're going to appeal to these legislators. They're all talking about money, and how do we get that aspect across to them in this letter that hopefully they will actually read. So it was
And
really
it has
just,
to be a one size fits all letter, right?
it does.
Brian?
Yes.
So we're talking about people who've never heard of us ever. And we're talking about people who are so familiar with us that they'll go, yeah. So is there a way to sorry, go ahead, George.
I was just going to say there aren't any that have never heard of us ever who are going to receive this, because any new legislators we've sent an introductory letter to over the last couple of cycles.
Yep.
So I don't know that that's an issue as the introduction, but I do think there's a way of including that we're for everybody that we may
Yeah.
not have said in this. And we should look at that and see if there's a way to
Yeah.
do it without necessarily the full mission statement. But I think our that we're for everybody in your district, legislator or, everybody, whatever, I think we can find a way to work that in.
And maybe we referenced that earlier thing, because I will tell you, if I'm a new legislator and I'm getting a ton of stuff from everywhere, and I get something from the Arts Board along the same morning that I'm getting 100 other things, I'm not going to remember that I got something from the Arts Board, maybe, right? So I don't know, just putting that out there. A reintroduction will be a helpful thing.
And I'm trying to read the very small print here on the screen sharing, but it seems to me the old letter had you, thank you. Old eyes, what can I say? The former letter had said something about being a state agency, and I'm not sure I'm seeing that here. And if they also get something from Create Wisconsin in the same week, will they know we're the agency and Create Wisconsin is a nonprofit advocacy group? I don't know.
I just
This
want
is going with the
Not
one
mentioned at all.
pagers.
yeah,
Okay.
I just want to say that I think that's a really good point, Jane. We lose sight of that often. And I don't know how to easily incorporate that, but I do think that that's a very small piece that, I see the wisconsin.gov, which helps clarify that we are a Wisconsin agency, but I do think, and maybe that's sufficient, but that's something that in conversations I've had with people, I always have to clarify that the Wisconsin Arts Board is a state agency.
And
So-
it's a very important point. We just were on a call with my colleague from Indiana who says it this way all the time. People think that we're arts organizations that work in state government, but we're actually state agencies that work in the arts. And
Yeah.
I think that what you're getting at, Jane and Matt, is to clarify that notion of who we are. And I think that's a good idea.
So
Sorry,
why couldn't you say something like, I'm writing on behalf of our state arts agency, the Wisconsin Arts Board? And then in terms of, the arts are for everyone, in your closing, instead of with kindness regards, as we say in our mission statement, the arts are for everyone.
that bumps us right up against the old Wisconsin Foundation for the Arts tagline,
Okay.
which was the arts are for everyone, support and enjoy.
Very
That
good.
was their tagline.
I was unaware, but
And
But
Create
I-
Wisconsin uses the arts are for everyone too.
But ours is different, isn't it?
Our mission statement is, yes, absolutely.
So it would read more like, we serve the people of every culture and heritage in our state, or I don't know, something. The arts are for the people of every culture and heritage in our state, something to that effect. Just so
Then
that
you're making it about,
Yeah.
keep in mind, then you've now made this letter about the differences in the state.
Yes.
Which is
I
why
agree with you,
embedding
Brian.
the mission statement earlier in the letter will avoid that.
Yeah.
I am not, and then I will mute myself and be quiet on this. We have limited real estate to get their attention, and using that real estate to put our mission statement is a poor investment in real estate as far as I'm concerned. We can get them to it. I agree with adding that we are a state agency to try to dissuade the confusion like that was at the beginning, but trying to be everything to everyone in this one letter and trying to kumbaya it, I think is going to possibly denude some of the things we're trying to say to legislators who may not normally listen, and perhaps they'll listen or get through the letter if they don't get to a certain line and then just throw it to the side, just out of, I don't know.
Yeah.
Is our
So
mission
that's
statement
my
embedded in the
concern.
letterhead? Because if it isn't, we could add it at the bottom of the letterhead.
It's not. It's not.
I don't know
Um,
any nonprofit organization who embeds their mission in the letters that they're sending across to everything or in their letterhead.
I
I'm
know
just
a
not.
few, but we don't have to be one of them. That's fine.
I'll just add my vote in generic agreement with Brian. I think both on the real estate piece, but also on I don't know what it adds. I'll just be frank. Like I think to a legislator, I don't know what it adds, and I think it does risk potentially um um the idea that it divides the arts a little bit, and I don't think our mission statement really does that. But I think in this piece, there is that risk. And I'm thinking about this pragmatically from my other hat in my other job, and where we are staying away from a bunch of terms, I'll say, in our communications, and that's just one piece of it. And I think the letter does a good job. I just had one substantive thing that I just wanted to throw out there as it relates to this. And it's whether or not there's like another action step here that we can offer. And so I see where we talk about we encourage them to connect with arts organizations and individuals in their district. Can we also maybe add to that we're here to help connect them if they need it? And we're happy to do introductions with these organizations. And we can say it not just from George, but from us individually, and then we can push it on to George if we need to. But if there's some way that we can make an offer of help if they are interested in reaching out with the arts organizations that are on this list, that they, of course they know how to do it, but I think it's a polite communication, that, an offer of assistance.
Yeah, I'm going to go back and look at the letter we sent to the new people, because I think there is some of that in there, and so maybe we can just lift out language and drop it in. So I like that. And And I think the other part of the statement, which I love this conversation, is that what we're basically saying to the legislature is we're for everybody in your district. End of story, right? This is everyone. When we mean everyone, we mean everyone in your district. And at a later date, we can discuss with you what everyone means. Um, because I think the other side of that from a legislator's perspective is, well, I don't know who really cares in my district about this thing you care about. And everyone in the district is a bigger thing than maybe where they might think it's just for the arts interested or the arts people. So we can work with that.
Perfect. So I think to summarize it, what I'm hearing is, maybe look at ways to add a sentence is to reintroduce ourselves to the folks who have maybe heard of us once, never before, or have always heard of us. And maybe if there's a way to affirm the Wisconsin Arts Board as an agency that works in the arts. So just to get away from like that distinction, it's more like affirming our space that talks about our strengths and, our unique role. I think that we can circumvent that issue of kind of like us versus them, which I don't think it's the spirit of this conversation, but it's more of like, how do we really like own the power of this arts agency within the broader, environment of that. And I think to Matt's point, ways that we can just continue to drive the point of us as connectors, within the space. Does that sound pretty much like the summary of our discussion?
Well captured.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. Excellent. So then moving on, we have some events coming up. All right. So we do have WCAT that's coming up next week, the 10th through the 11th. So I don't know, George, if you want to just take some time to talk about that, like what role do you envision this specific committee taking? Where do you need us, and all that stuff?
Yeah. So Sunday the 9th, 10th, and 11th is WCAT this year. The Sunday, there will be a roundtable opportunity in the afternoon where it's effectively like a town meeting for us. People will drop by and say, "Hey, Arts Board, what do you do, and how can you help?" And so if there are things this committee wants to make sure we articulate to those new folks, we should do that. And if this committee also thinks that the generic, if we can use that term, version of the one pager should be available for people to pick up at that roundtable, then we should make sure that we're printing those out. It also includes on that Sunday the opening reception. And so those of you who are in early enough for that, hopefully you'll be there and mixing it up with folks. On Monday, the conference begins, there are a couple things that are happening for sure, and Karen and Vivian, remind me if I've forgotten anything. But the things that are going to be most important for you to think about are the marketplace, where the Arts Board will again have a table. And so when we send out a message to you that includes your confirmation numbers for your hotel, we'll also put a note in there to have you think about signing up for that booth, just to be there to meet the people. And again, if there's something we should be having in that booth for people, obviously we've got some 50th anniversary swag we can be providing, but beyond that, what else? Then following that, and Brian, this one we'll have to talk about a little bit offline, but that evening, first the executive committee will meet with Create Wisconsin's board to talk about the
Their
relationship
executive
between,
committee,
yeah,
not their board, but their
I-
executive committee.
I don't know. They've got like 4 or 5 people coming to the conference. So yes, it may be that limited. It may not. I'm not sure, to be honest with you.
I would
'Cause-
like to, sideline that, because if we're not bringing just, you know what I mean? Yeah, I'll be curious.
Yeah. So one of the things we've been asked is about an agenda for that meeting. So you and I will talk about that offline. And then following that executive committee conversation, it'll go to the full boards having dinner together. And Vivian has made us a and a reservation, and we will be ready to do that on Monday night. And then on Tuesday, of course, there are a couple things going on. Vivian and Karen and Caitlin and I have been working to put together a breakout session, which you guys can talk about briefly. In the afternoon, the Arts Board meeting takes place, also in the afternoon of Tuesday. And then the reception and the dinner, as far as I know, at least and the early planning, the full Arts Board was to be invited to the reception, so I haven't heard otherwise, but I will follow up with them and make sure. And that's the story. So within the context of the full conference, if what materials you want to provide, want to remind everybody to bring their silver name tags. We'll bring 50th anniversary pins for you to put on your stuff just so they can pick you out of a group. They meaning tourism, have already got Wisconsin Arts Board things for your name tag, your official conference name tag. So there's a ribbon that will say Wisconsin Arts Board. And it also reminds me, Karen and Vivian, that we need to get silver tags for Mari for sure. I'm guessing Tyler as well. And I'm not sure who else, but this is a good opportunity to think about that. And speaking of opportunities, Vivian is bringing to our attention the notion of an online on your phone business card, so that we need to craft those for you so that when you're at the conference, you can just give them an Arts Board business card from your phone as opposed to having a physical card in your pocket. I don't know about you, but that'll make my life a whole lot easier if I can just take my phone out. So I know I'll have my phone. I can guarantee you I'll forget my cards. Um, all right, a quick note on what the breakout session is, guys.
You want to go
Karen,
ahead
do you
and
want to?
describe the panel, Vivian?
Yeah,
It's
I can
been pulling
go.
it together. It's pretty great, actually.
Yeah. The panel's really interesting. It's on kind of the intersection between the great outdoors and the arts. So we're gonna have three really interesting people speaking about that. So we're gonna have someone from Sculpture Eau Claire, Julie from Sculpture Eau Claire, talking about that. We're also gonna have Jennifer. She's with the Carpenter Nature Center, but she'll be talking about the most recent art bench on the Sunqua Art Bench Trail. And she
Around Hudson
also,
area.
yeah, she also does have some other experience with regard to outdoor art. So I think she's going to be talking a bit about that, but mostly about the Art Bench Trail. And then I also have a gentleman named Morgan who will be talking about the Great Sauk State Trail. Very interesting. He also does community development, so I think that will be a nice perspective to add, and he'll be able to kind of entice the tourism viewers some more for the panel. So that's going to be on Tuesday at 11 in the morning. From 11 to 12, we'll have 10-15 minutes for our speakers, and then a Q&A section at the end. One of us will be moderating as well, to be determined who that is, I believe, for this session.
And as you can imagine, the outdoor, outdoor rec is really the theme. Our friends at tourism saying, all right, arts, let's focus on outdoor arts and how do we make this happen? So this was our answer. They liked it. All good, I think. George, anything from context from you? And thanks, Vivian. That was great.
No, that's exactly right, Karen. The theme of the conference is boundless, and it is about outdoor rec. But as you know, the secretary really loved last year's arts related conference and wanted to make sure that there was something there. And so this is what we offered to them. And we're thankful that Vivian is here so she could chase some of these folks down so they would say yes, and we're happy they have. So
Yes.
Awesome. So then that is awesome. And I'm just making sure that I caught the folks for the minute. So it's from Shore School in Eau Claire. What was the woman's name again? I'm sorry, Vivian. I didn't
We'll
hear.
we'll send it to you. We'll send it to
Okay.
you. Jen.
Yeah, we can.
Okay, perfect.
I wanted to say something. I just wanted to make a suggestion. I wonder if, along with the general sheet that we have for the arts board that we would have available at the marketplace or roundtable, I wonder if we might have a file folder where we would have some that are specific to the district, since we're have them. And if somebody were to want to know what's happening in their district from the art board, we could make that available to them.
Nice.
And then the other one was, I needed to apologize to everyone because I will not be able to make it this year to Woodcut. It's just our biggest festival happens on that week, and I just can't get away to do that. So my apologies. I'm really gonna miss it, and I'm gonna miss you guys. So
We'll miss you.
No, thank you for that, Dino. And we'll make sure that we are thinking of you as you're putting together that amazing experience for your students. So thank you for letting us know. We'll just make a note of that. All right. So is there anything else as far as Woodcut?
Not unless there are any questions from the group.
I don't think I
Anyone have
can find my
questions?
silver name tag. I think my silver name tag died in my car when my car got totaled by a deer. So I'm
Ooh.
looking around going,
Oh no.
I wonder if that got left in the car when it got totaled. So
Oh, yeah, you said it was you often had it in the car so you wouldn't forget it. So that's a very strong possibility.
Easy to order you another one, Brian. Thank you. So that's Brian, that's Tyler, and that's Mari. Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you for taking care of that. All right. So then this brings us to Create Wisconsin Day. So that's coming up March 25th. I have had the distinct pleasure of representing the Wisconsin Arts Board. But before we get on there, I just wanted to make sure that the committee knew about that, and that we can really strategize as to, you know, what is it that success will look like from my part of and our involvement in that. What are some priority and like conversations that we're thinking, and ultimately, like, I don't know, just get your thoughts on the whole thing. So that's coming up March 25th, which is a Tuesday.
thank you for being open to being voluntold.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure, Brian.
George and I will both be gone and unable to do this.
I think it's really great that you're going to do this, Chella, and I think we will have a little bit, well, I hope we will have a little bit more clarity, because by that point, Joint Finance may have signaled what it is they think they're going to do with all this. So you'll know what you will be able to say at that point. Hopefully good things, but you never know. So one point of clarification is that timing will tell us what kind of things we might be wanting to talk about. We also, it's possible by that point we'll have new BEA numbers, because it's basically mid-March that they have come out with them in the past. So that may be a new thing for the crowd there. And that would be great to have if that's the case.
The other thing,
And
George, I don't know if
Yeah.
go on, finish.
No, it's okay. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the 50 cent. The important thing is we talk about things, and we're at Create Wisconsin Day. And if you guys are hearing things, is what the governor put in that directly impacts Wisconsin Arts Board from a funding standpoint, the 50-cent increase up to 68. Keep in mind that if legislators think that that's something like a huge change, it still keeps us last place in the Midwest. We have not shifted positions in the Midwest with this investment. If this should be passed, we're 1 cent below Iowa then.
Yeah, so the four, just a reminder, the four things that are in the budget that are arts related. The first is the increase in per capita funding. The second is the match to the NEA. So that's a beautiful thing, to make sure that that's ensconced in the governor's proposal. The third is the Rural Creative Economy Initiative, which Create Wisconsin has been looking forward to. It's my understanding that as they seek the potential of a Republican champion, that the Rural Creative Economy Initiative will likely be forwarded to Wisconsin Economic Development Corporation. So that won't be something that will ultimately be in the tourism budget, but it remains to be seen. And then finally, the notion of the reinstatement of the film incentives and the creation of a film office. Well, they call it a Film and Creative Industries Office, which would have 3 people at the Department of Tourism in that space. So, as we say, there's a long way to go before any of this is real, but the Arts Board can take pride in its original role in creating the film incentives and creating the nonprofit film office in the early 2000s. And we certainly continue to have the opinion that 75% of something is better than 100% of nothing. And so in the case of film incentives, that's what we say. You know, if you want to give it 25% credit, at least you're giving 25% credit and you're getting the other 75% for yourselves. If you don't have the incentives, it's very rare that you'll see a production be greenlit in Wisconsin. It's not that it hasn't happened. Green and Gold is a perfect example of when it has happened. But that took some significant work of the producer and directors to make that happen. Even at that, the pressure was very strong for them to go south to Illinois, where there were incentives. So again, as Brian said, the increase per capita is important, and that's what we hope to see joint finance continue as they take up the budget. Most important in that space is since the governor proposed it, we can continue to talk about it, and so we will definitely, no matter what the outcome, be telling the crowd at Create Wisconsin Day how important this historic investment was. And I guess that's the other thing to say about this. As we've been talking about it, the Arts Board has not received a general increase in the time that I've been here, which is since 1992. The increases that we've seen are in two places, the Arts Challenge Initiative and the regranting program. So both programmatic increases to the Arts Board's budget. So this budget that we're talking about is an increase specifically to the bottom line of the Arts Board. And again, as we say to people, while it's to the bottom line of the Arts Board, it's not for the Arts Board's use, right? We're passing this money through to the field. So if people say, well, that's more of an Arts Board related budget, no, that's an increase to the investment in the creativity of the field. Yeah, so I think that that's an important piece. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, and we've got the Dorky Legislative Days are taking place on March 19th. And so I was asked to, because I am very vocal about our groups never putting anything forward about the arts, to be on the steering committee. And so we will now have a leave behind as part of our legislative meetings in every legislator's office. Will be a one-pager included about the increasing support of the 50 cents up to 68 and how important the arts are to the economic activity of Door County. It was harder to tie that to Kewaunee County as tangibly as it was to Door County. So it'll be really much, the data is going to be driven from Door County. But just FYI that before we send, if we're sending our stuff out, et cetera, and before Create Wisconsin Day, all the legislators will have already received a one-pager in support of the increase.
Yay.
They asked us to do a two-pager, so thanks George and team for the two-pager, and then I had to turn it into a one-page, which thank you ChatGPT for distilling it down, but it missed a word, and I just saw it come back at me. Either they missed it when they typed it into their format or whatnot, so I've got to get that added in before they distribute this stuff.
Wow. Well, look at that. Technology doing its magic. by making words disappear, right?
It made a lot of words disappear down to one page, but it did a very good job. ChatGPT is not going away, so if you're not using it as a tool,
You're missing
it
out.
is helpful.
Yes. All right. So I think that I don't know if there's any questions from like other committee members, but I think that, just kind of bringing back this conversation to, first of all, like how it impacts the state budget, I think is important. The 4 areas, we are the ambassadors of what is happening here in our communities and beyond, right? So the more information and the more capacitated you feel to be able to, talk about this, point people in the correct resources, like we are doing our job, right? So we'll make sure to send you all of the embedded links and things as we, put our minutes out. But just thank you in advance for the work that everyone is doing, from the little things to the big things coming up, right? Next, we have just outdoor outreach priorities. So this really comes from a conversation that I had with Vivian, for us to consider what type of support do we want Vivian to offer in this realm of like external relations. And Vivian, I don't know if you want to just kind of have the same conversation that we did so that we can just provide some feedback and ideas as to how we make this manageable for you. Because I mean, how long have you been with us so far?
A little over a month now.
All right.
Few
And we
days
just keep
in.
piling stuff on you, right?
I enjoy it. I enjoy it. Yeah. So to kind of continue the conversation that Chella and I were having, I have definitely been trying to get my boots on the ground and just meet people and try to provide more of a front facing approach for the arts board, because it's really incredible how much my amazing colleagues have been able to do with 4 people, but now that there's a 5th, I think it's really important to show the public that we're here. And I've received a lot of that feedback. So I met with people at Momoka last week. I also just happened to run into a jeweler at a fine arts jewelry studio in Madison as well. And before I said anything about my association with the arts, there was a lot of frustration expressed already of just, I feel panicked and I don't know what to do. So I kind of want to ask everyone, it's really hard, I think, to have everyone put a face or faces to the name of the Wisconsin Arts Board, but how can we prioritize meeting people face to face, not just in Madison, but really showing up where it's necessary? Because I know that in-person visits were happening a lot more before COVID. So should we return to more in-person visits? Should we just be doing general outreach? I mean, I've been calling a lot of organizations, and especially with regard to Youth Arts Month, just asking them, what are you doing? And, how can we show the world what you're doing and the amazing work that you have done? Because I think a lot of organizations don't have that capacity to be a megaphone and then also do what needs to be done. So I just want to ask everyone, are there any organizations that you know of that are maybe really amazing that never get talked about? Or do you think that a lot of frustration is just bubbling up from one community? So maybe the Wisconsin Arts Board should go in and have a town hall. What are everyone's thoughts on that?
And just to set context as well, when we're talking about the work that Vivian's doing in the public relations space, it's sort of it's like a pebble that drops in the middle and radiates out. So the first thing when the pebble drops in the water is telling the story of the arts board, first and foremost. The next ring is to talk about our constituents and the work that they've done, especially with the resources they've received from us. And then the third ring is all the other resources in the arts that we want to draw attention to. Because I think one of the things that has been clear about when we were 4 and now 5, our ability to do the work is strong. Our ability to tell the story has been not strong. And so that's the thing. And then so as Vivian's looking at things, for example, Youth Art Month is going to be a really interesting proof of concept, in that not only can we talk about the work that we've done in arts education, but then we have a number of constituents and a number of partners that can be brought forward and interviewed. And so how we can do that in a way that is planned and um, not only for this, as I say, it's really a proof of concept. And then there will be other months with other themes and other ideas going forward. But to your point, Vivian, if there are subjects or organizations or communities that are in need of conversation, I think that's important. And again, the only other thing that came out of the meeting today with the NEA and Arts Midwest was just that notion and the need for people to hear the message that things are not out of control. They need to they need to be calm. They need to listen to what's going on and realize that good things are happening, even if they're not hearing it generally in the media. But the only ones that are going to say that to them are the folks here. You know, so the message of hope, the message of calm in the face of chaos will come from the work that you all are doing. And Vivian's going to amplify. So
No, thank you for that. And I think it's really important for us to kind of hear that, that there's these national conversations that are happening where we're seeing, these rapid fire executive orders and, for organizations that maybe don't have the capacity to be plugged into from a legal standpoint of what does this mean for funding, for sustainability, just underscoring that, themes of calmness and pump your brakes, right now the chaos, it's a hurricane that's around us and eventually this will pass, right? And I think that our role in the messaging component of just kind of helping keep the calm and we're going to wait to see what this really means is critically important for this political climate that we're in. So thanks, George, for just bringing that into the center of this. Brian.
Yeah, I was going to say is just dealing with facts and not conjecture and just, reminding people we don't know how this will impact us. I've had people say, have you stopped all your grant making because of the Wisconsin Humanities Council? And I said, absolutely not. We're still making our grants and moving forward. So.
And that's a great point because the group may not realize, but in the case of the Arts Board, we're 50-50, right? 50% state, 50% federal. In the case of the Humanities Council, they're majority federal and then nonprofit funding. They have no state funding. So when something happens to the NEH, that's going to be a much greater impact on them than it would be on us. Now, having said that, what we don't want to have people think is that we're not paying attention or that we're playing the Pollyanna game, that this is all going to be rosy and whatever. But as we said to the NEA today, the ability to say to the group, Marianne Carter sitting there, the former NEA chair, and this is what she's doing, and then this is what she cares about. I asked them directly today about the arts and healthcare, for example, because in our application to the NEA, we asked for 75 grand for arts and healthcare. And their answer was, Marianne Carter's read all of the applications, and she's very much in favor of the arts and healthcare. And so, as long as they have at least a flat budget, that can be an encouraging sign that that will carry through. But unless you ask the question, you don't have that answer. You can fill in the gaps, and I think, again, that's where Vivian comes in very strongly, is that we don't have to leave a vacuum for other people to fill in. Even if what we're saying to them is ask us. The answer may be we don't know. But ask us, So given the fact of timing for the meeting, I think we want to make sure that you all have Vivian's email. She's well open to you giving her your suggestions about who we should be thinking about, who we should be talking to. If you see a best practice that should be raised up, it doesn't have to have a theme. It could just be a best practice. So by all means, let her know.
Absolutely. And thank you again, Vivian, for that. So I know to be conscious of time, we've already asked 8 additional minutes of your time. But just to kind of wrap up the conversation, I think that we are going in a direction that is very much about centering the inquiries of the folks that we serve, right? So having these tools, I think, are going to be very helpful. Having, Vivian as a team member that helps us attribute a face into the agency, I think will be, of tremendous support. I know that, something standing is more of like the, how do we continue to increase these? We'll kind of just table this last item for, future discussion of what data visualization can look like. But obviously the team is always thinking about it. And I think the last thing that we're charged to do is just our next meeting. We usually have them the second Mondays of the month. Does that still work with folks in 2025? Yes. Perfect. So then that means that obviously we're going to be meeting in WICOT, not necessarily for external relations, but just in general for, Wisconsin Arts Board stuff, which then brings the External Relations Committee to meet the 14th of April. Does that sound right to y'all?
Mhm.
All right. So then we have action. So we will make sure you bring your name tag. And Brian, we're ordering you and the new folks' name tags. We're going to be signing up for booth slots for those that are able to make it. And then we're going to be in, conversations with George and team in regards to, strategies related to Create Wisconsin Day, as well as, other things that bubble up as far as ways that we can drive our storytelling. So that is it. That is all we have.
Can I
From
ask
my
one
end.
last question? Is there a way to have access to all these district sheets in a digital format? So say I'm out in the community talking to somebody, I can just sort of bring it up and, talk about that specific district or what their thoughts are. I know it's easy to, right now that I have the computer, I have it open, I can look at them, but is there some other way that we have access to them?
Yeah, so as of right now, there is a public link that anyone with or without, I believe, a Canva account can access. But the plan is, given all of the feedback today, I mean, again, I would welcome any emails if you noticed anything later about the one-pagers, but the plan will be to put them out on the website actually. So you could just go to the Wisconsin Arts Board website and then find by district, Assembly Senate, or just the statewide one. So it should be very, very easy to access quite soon.
And Chella, before we let everybody go, the data visualization thing, you may, if you're interested, let us know the names of the people who did the presentation, and Vivian could pursue them to be a part of the next meeting, if that makes
Indiana.
sense.
Yeah, whoever was there from Indiana.
Right,
Did you
right. No,
take
I
their
know it's
names?
Indiana, but I didn't know the names, so.
Yeah.
Yep, I will share that with you, Vivian, and we'll make sure that we continue these conversations, because I think we're finally at a time and place where we can actually prioritize what that forward thinking is going to be, so that we can get all of our logistics in order. Awesome. So is there any announcements quickly? Any exciting news, folks? All right. Well, I think this was the exciting part of our day, right? This being here together. All right, cool. So then I will see most of y'all next week in Lake Geneva. Dinora will be keeping you in our thoughts. And
I
have a
don't think
great
you
week.
want to see. I don't think you want to see us in Lake Geneva. We're going to
Oh,
be in
where are we?
lacrosse. We're going to be
Oh
in
my gosh,
lacrosse.
lacrosse. Why
Yeah.
did I have Lake Geneva in my
Because that
thing?
was last year. That
That
was
was
last
last year.
year.
If I
That's all
had,
good.
if it had been Lake Geneva, I could have made some. I can't.
Oh
all
my
good.
God. Thank God. I was going to show it to the wrong city. Okay. Thank you for that.
No worries.
I don't know where you would have been sleeping.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care,
George,
all.
do you
All
want
right.
to stay on, and Vivian, whoever,
Yeah.
just about this agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
can.
that's fine.
Thank you all. Thank you all.
Chella, do you want to stay, just since you're going to?
Sure.
Oh,
But we could stop the recording at this point.
Yeah.
So